All right, well, I think we'll go ahead and kick things off. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Justin Lewis, and I serve as the Bureau Chief for Iowa STEM and the Division of Innovation at the Iowa Department of Education. For those familiar with the STEM Council, please be assured that while our structure has evolved, our mission remains steadfast to enhance interest and achievement in STEM among Iowans through exemplary programs such as Scale Up. And since its inception in 2012, the Iowa STEM Scale Up program has effectively disseminated engaging STEM initiatives through Iowa, reaching upwards of 100,000 students annually. The primary goal of the Scale Up program is to provide world-class STEM education opportunities to all learners, as well as training and support for educators. Through the Scale Up program, we seek to broaden student engagement in STEM subjects and forge connections with key industries and career fields prevalent in Iowa, including agriculture, advanced manufacturing, information technology, finance, and medical sciences, among others. This integration is vital to our mission as linking STEM education with real-world applications helps equip educators with valuable resources and prepares our future workforce to tackle contemporary challenges. As part of the Iowa Department of Education and the newly established Division of Innovation, we are seeking innovative ideas that align with these objectives. We encourage program providers to present their most compelling offerings to Iowa educators, contributing to the advancement of STEM education and fostering a brighter future. For the 2025-2026 school year, we anticipate that Scale Up providers will share in a funding pool exceeding $3 million, which will be allocated across approximately 10 to 15 programs. We extend our gratitude to the Iowa legislature for their continued bipartisan support, as well as to private sector investors who make this program possible. It is important to note that legislative funds are distributed evenly and equitably across the state, ensuring representation from all regions. Funding for individual programs within the STEM Council's 6 regions can reach 6 figures, depending on the number of educators selecting the program and decisions made by STEM. Please be aware that program scaling is determined by market demand and is not guaranteed. At this juncture, I would like to introduce our 6 regional managers who are integral to the Scale Up program. They are valuable resources and will be your primary contacts throughout this process. I encourage you to engage with them should you have any questions or further information. In the Northwest, we have Mary Trent with Iowa Lakes Community College. North Central, Marie Hagee at Iowa State University. Northeast, Jeff Beneke, University of Northern Iowa. Southeast is Matt Steer, University of Iowa and Kirkwood Community College. South Central, Sarah Derry, Drake University. And in the Southwest, Casey Winstrand with Southwestern Community College. Scale Up lowers the barrier to entry to try something new. For our schools, our educators, and most importantly, our students, by providing opportunities that can be scaled in both rural and urban learning environments. We can do this thanks to developers and deliverers of exemplary STEM programming like yourselves, and I want to personally thank each of you for your interest in being a part of Iowa's STEM Scale Up program. I look forward to the innovative contributions you will bring to our program, our educators, and our students. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya to kick off the whole webinar. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Justin. I'll introduce myself. My name is Tanya Hunt, and I have the great opportunity of working with these fabulous 6 STEM regional managers that really drive our Scale Up program. So excited to be here today. Just gonna quick go back to go over our agenda after that stellar introduction by our fearless leader. You are also going to learn in this webinar the application process. I'm walking you through the technical aspects of how to set up an account and navigate our platform that we utilize for submitting these proposals. And then I'm going to turn it over to our in-house expert, Dr. Sarah Derry, who's going to go through the timeline and specific tools as it relates to the scale up process. So diving in, to access the Scale Up Provider application, you'll be using, it's our statewide platform, IowaGrants.gov. So for those first-time users who have not navigated this platform before, you are going to want to access, we have a great set of instructions on how to go about setting up your account. And I'm going to navigate using this web link. Hopefully it's not slow. Good. Now my fellows, you need to make sure as I'm bouncing around and I talk super fast that my navigation is following me too. I want to also note that all of the things we share here, the slides, the links, the sign-up sheets are going to be available to you on our website. So if you're feverishly trying to take notes and write all these things down, don't worry. It's all going to be presented on our website. There's a set of login instructions, and as long as you follow them to the letter, you're not going to have an issue. So I'm not going to read through this because you guys are all well, versed in how to do that. I'm just going to highlight a few of the common mistakes that we see when users are trying to access or set up an account. So you'll navigate to the initial www.IowaGrants.gov and look for this sign-on tool button. It says, click here to access single sign-on tool. And then you get this pop-up screen, which if you are like me and you are just going to, see my email address, and you'll start typing in your email address because we're so programmed to just do what we see and not necessarily read everything. This is the first and easy mistake you can make. You actually need to forget all about this and go to the very bottom and click this blue sign up link, which should be a lot larger because, it would be a little bit easier to see. So that's probably the number one mistake. So just be aware of that's actually where you go to set up and sign up and start an account. And then it kind of walks you through the next to do this, next to do that. And it will have a secondary, like everything, an authentication that you can set up. So whether it be, an email, or if you'd like to use this secondary app, you have choices on how you want to set that up. Another thing, you will have to verify this. So there will, an email verification will get sent to the email that you utilize. So just make sure you look for this admin@id.iowa.gov. And it often goes to the spam folders. For whatever reasons, the iowa.gov gets sent to spam. So don't panic if you don't see this verification email. Just check your spam folder. It's often there. So if you follow the rest of the prompts, you're usually approved. This is another important thing. The approval process can take some time. So that's one of my number one tips. And yeah, you're going to hear it again because it's not instantaneous. They are actually approved, and there is a process where individuals are monitoring and looking and setting up these accounts. So my advice is don't wait. Set this up now. Even if you're just here to get information and kind of considering this opportunity, it doesn't hurt you. We won't spam you with materials just because you have an account. So go ahead and set up your account now to afford, we always say 3 business days for that account to get set up and approved. You'll receive an email that verifies, yes, you're good to go. And now you have access to Iowa grants. Super exciting. All right, I bounced. Teammates, did it bounce with me? You see, oh, perfect. Okay, so that's the platform we utilize for our applications. You will always have 2 options for accessing the application. Since it's a statewide system, there are a number of opportunities within it. So to get directly to the Scale Up application, the number one way that I advise is utilizing the direct link. This is the link we share out with potential providers in any of Sarah's communications or what's on our website, we share the direct link just because it's easier and gets you to our stuff, because selfishly, that's what we are interested in. We want to get you right to the application so you can put all of your stellar information in there. And I even put the link here. So I'm gonna, and see, it'll look just like this. Here's the funding opportunity. You'll see it, it says the 25-26 STEM Scale Up Program Provider Application. And then your login button will be here. So you click that and log in with your account information. There is another way if you, I don't know, if you don't bookmark that link, because that's another tip. Bookmark that link so you always have access to it. Say you're working on your computer crashed, you have a new computer and you've lost your bookmarks, but you know it's Iowa Grants. No problem. You can go to IowaGrants.gov. I'm going to walk you through screen by screen here. Oh, I already showed you that here. This is the main screen. It's going to look pretty familiar because this is where you navigated to set up your account. You still use this button here, this single sign-on tool. I'm going to give you another tidbit just in case you're interested in all those other funding opportunities. This button here, View Current Funding Opportunities, will show you the funding opportunities presented within Iowa. But to get signed in to work to the application, you're always going to use this single sign-on tool. And then from here, this is our menu. You're not going to have as many options because I get the slew of options. So that's the screenshot you see. But you're always going to have funding opportunities in this sidebar menu. That's where you're going to go. And then next, I mean, I'm efficient, so I start using my search bar and just start typing in scale up, and then that opportunity will be presented. Likely you're not going to see quite as many as I do here, but that's the quickest way you can get to the application. You'll see it's posted here. It'll say Iowa STEM and then the scale up provider application, and you just click on that and you will get access to the application. So it's going to look like this for your first screen. You're going to have a fancy new button the first time. It says start a new application. And actually that button will always be there and it'll be useful to some of you who might want to provide more than one proposal. And you can even see here on my dashboard, because our team has diligently tried this application several times over, that I have a numerous amount of applications already started. So if I were returning to this, I could select the best test copy if that was an application I wanted to go edit and wanted to look into. But if as a first time I'm coming here, I want to start a new application, you just select Start New Application button. This is your first screen. It's going to be the general information. This is where you may have heard from us that we would love for you to follow this naming convention, only because it makes our jobs easier. And this is where you would have your application title, follow the naming convention that identifies your organization name, followed by the program name that you're proposing. This will ask you for primary contact information. Will always self-populate to whoever is logged in and starting the application. It will ask you to identify the organization that is submitting as well. Additional contacts, this might be a good opportunity to think about. If there are other members of your team that you would like access to this application, this is a good time to identify those. However, they also have to already have an approved account with IowaGrants.gov. So they're not going to show up if they don't have an account. And then after, you're going to see all of these sections always have a green button. Like green means go, green means you probably should do something there. That's probably a good idea. So this is the save form information. So anytime you're not sure what to do, or if it's saved, I would always save your form information. You can always go back and edit that section. So as soon as you're done with this, You click Save Form Information. All right, and it'll take you back to your dashboard, and you're gonna see this big red banner here. Not to panic, don't worry. This is another question where people are like, something is wrong, something happened. Nothing really happened. It's just telling you, hey, good job, but you still have some work to do. All right, so the application is set up in really 3 parts. You have your general information, a minority impact statement, and then the scale up program provider application, which is really the depth of your proposal. So each time one of these sections is complete, you're going to see a green arrow. And so you will always get this little red banner until you have completed the entire thing. It's almost like Iowa Grants is guilting you all the way until the end, just to make sure you complete the application. All right, just know that nothing is wrong. It's just trying to remind you you still have some work to do. So we're going to wait until the 3 green check marks. That's when we know we have everything that we need in order to submit the application. Oh yes, here I am being a little mom-like. End your work by doing your save form. Oh, sorry. Even if the form, each form that's in here, even if you're working within a document and you're not like, you have to get going to another meeting. Save the form, save the section. So that way it saves all the information that you have populated in it, even if it's not complete. Like I said, you could always come back and edit it, but that way your work that has been done will be saved there to date, and you don't have to start over. So once you save some information, the system will always give you an opportunity to preview your work. And this is what it'll look like. You'll see there is a new orange button to mark as complete. So once you look at it and you can be like, yes, these are all the things I wanted to do. You mark this mark as complete, and that's when it gives you that magical green check mark that we're looking for. It also allows you to edit the form if you miss something. Like I doubt, sadly, my title is not Chief Tanya Hunt. Maybe someday. Okay, and nope, I marked it as complete. We have 2 check marks with only 1 to go. So each time you're doing this, to get into the next component, you just click on the title of that document that you're working in. So my next one would be the actual provider application that I would select. So like I said before, this is the majority of your content that you're creating is the very last piece of this. Anytime let's say I'm working within our document and I'm like, okay, I'm all done. I'm gonna select the mark as complete. I'm getting that 3rd green check mark. This is great. It will double check to make sure any of the required fields are occupied. So you'll see here, this is a little pop-up menu that says, hey, you're missing components in these systems. Now, I just want to make sure you understand. I said occupied. So if you are like me, sometimes I just want to get through something and see that it works, and I'll put some dummy text in there. If you are working like that, the system will recognize that as, oh, there's content in here. So I don't recommend doing that because there's a possibility that the system will say, okay, it won't recognize it as incomplete. Like if I just put test in there because I was testing how to do something, it's going to recognize that as content and think you have completed that section. So leave it blank. It'll always automatically tell you, hey, these are the sections you still need to add content to, but it'll allow you to save. So now we've reached that magical time where we have all 3 green check marks. We've completed our general information, minority impact statement, and our provider application. So once you are at this point, I always like to preview my application, just kind of look through it one more time and then hit submit. Once you hit that submit application button, it always says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And absolutely you do. You hit the submit and you're good to go. You're going to get a dashboard that looks like this. It will not look this messy because, again, we've tested, retested, and done everything under the sun. And so you're going to see your application listed, and it will have this green submitted button. If perhaps you have other or multiple applications and you haven't submitted, you would always be in editing mode. So that's what these mean. Likely you won't see the other things because we will long be done with them unless you will see when your application is under review. All right, to end with a couple of tips and tricks for troubleshooting. Sarah has put together an awesome worksheet. It's called the Response Planning Worksheet that you can find on our website. That is a great tool. While I love our Iowa Grants system, it can be a bit cumbersome to work within. You know, I am impatient and like to get things going. And when I'm in a flow, I just want to stay in the flow. And so I'm a Google Doc person or a Microsoft Word person because those I can see and keep working. And that's exactly what that document is. And so from an efficiency standpoint, I would recommend utilizing that to build your content and edit your content and get it to a final place before you put it in our Iowa Grants application. It's important to note, we will not accept those as an application. We will only accept applications if submitted in IowaGrants.gov. So, but it's a great way to work within your proposal, and that way you copy and paste the content into the Iowa Grants application. And again, I told you I was going to reiterate this a few times, but establish your account now. And especially encourage colleagues, if it's more than one of you, making sure that you are set up and have your IowaGrants.gov account now. Waiting to the last week, if there's just, we can never, nothing's a guarantee. You know, heaven forbid I get hit by a bus and can't approve it. I'm sure there's others, but it's always a good idea just to do it now. Maybe you're even doing it and multitasking as I speak. We are providing a few opportunities to get that one-on-one assistance. We've tried to create opportunities in a varied format, whether you're listening to this webinar on recording, whether you're looking at the slideshow, or you want some one-on-one help desk assistance. We have an appointment calendar that you can access and just select a 15-minute time span. Once we are notified of that request, a Zoom link will be added to the calendar invite so we can connect virtually and walk you through any of these step-by-step problems or step-by-step instructions. Or if you're having a problem, sometimes it's just easier to see what you're encountering. So know that there will be supports and you can reach out to us at any time. With that, I'm turning over the driving to my colleague. I almost said conspirator.
I think that's fair.
You think?
Thanks, Tanya. I'm Sarah Derry. I am probably the one you're getting emails from. And I'm the South Central Region Manager for the STEM Council, and we each kind of have our own thing that we spearhead, and I've been spearheading the provider selection for our STEM Scale-Up program for the last 10 years. And so if I don't know you already, I'm really excited to get to know you through this process. I'm going to just take you through some of the nuts and bolts of the program. The first thing is the timeline. And the STEM STEM Scale-Up program really happens in 3 phases. Right now, we're in the provider selection phase. And then after the menu is selected, we'll move into the educator application phase, where the educators, we present the menu of selected programs to our educators, and they have the opportunity to apply for what is going to be the best fit for their learning environment. We select those educators and then announce the awardees in the spring. That's when the selected program providers from the menu will find out how many educators have been awarded. And then the third part of this annual cycle is the implementation phase. And so the dates you're looking at here, September 10th is important for you all because that is the deadline for this application to apply for whatever programs you want to be considered for the Iowa STEM Scale Up menu that will be implemented in the 2025-2026 academic year. November 15th is when all programs, regardless of whether they've been selected for the menu or not, will be notified of their status. And then there's a period between November and January where we're working really hard to establish all the details of what implementation will look like and what the budgets will look like and how we're going to promote this to Iowa educators. Because beginning in January is when we make that menu of programs available. And then the educators in Iowa have an opportunity to apply for their best fit. That selection process, the awarding process for the educators is complete in April of 2025. And at that point, that's when you as a provider will be notified of how many educators were awarded your program. And then the implementation phase will begin in July of 2025, which starts with the training, and then the educators implement during that academic year. So that's the timeline. And then my next task is to share with you our resources page. Let's see, I'm going to advance my slides here. And there are three main resources that I want to share with you. Number one is our landing page with the provider application resources where everything's going to be housed. But then I'm going to dive more specifically into the budget template and the rubric, because that's going to help answer a lot of the questions that we typically get from providers during the application process. And while I'm talking about questions, I did want to draw your attention to the Q&A button on this webinar. You're welcome to type any questions into the chat. Our fearless communications manager, Jan Lockhart, is monitoring that as we speak. And so she will help interrupt and address those questions. There's also going to be time for you to ask those at the end, but it's helpful if you think of them as you go. You're welcome to put them in the chat or in the Q&A portion right now. And while you're doing that, I'm going to bop over to the webpage, which is where we house all of our resources. The URL is here, educate.iowa.gov, and all the things beyond it. I would recommend you bookmark it. I know Jan put it in the chat earlier. So go ahead and bookmark that because the resources are all here. I'm going to scroll down on this page to give you a taste of what we've got. So there's a quick link right to the registration, and then the recording of this webinar will be housed there also on this page, starting about next week, once we get it downloaded off this and then uploaded to the web, so that you can access this information at any time. There's an overview of the program. The next part here is links to all the resources that I'm going to be talking through. And I know Jan also put those in the chat, but if you want to bookmark one place, it's this page here. The steps for applying, the timeline, which goes into more detail than I did right now. But primarily, the thing you want to know for this time is September 10th, 4:59 p.m. Central Time is when those applications are due. We go through eligible applicants, an overview of the process, which I just kind of talked you through, sort of those three phases, some definitions, frequently asked questions, what we'll go through here in just a minute. But this is one of the things I wanted to address from this webpage, which is the kinds of programs that we're looking for. So we will accept all kinds of things, STEM, but if you want a list of specific things that we're looking for to help providers, a lot of times ask me like, okay, we have a whole bunch of programs. How do we decide what to prioritize for the application in Iowa? This would be a great place for you to take a look and help narrow that down. I will share that our menu has varied from 9 to 15 programs over the course of 10 years. And I don't believe we've ever had more than 3 programs from a single provider. So as you're thinking about how many programs to submit, if you have a wide variety of them, I would recommend that you just take into account that we always look to have a diverse menu, and that includes diversity of the providers that are offered. So if you submit 16 programs, 16 programs aren't going to get selected. It's usually no more than 3 from a single provider, and frequently even less than that. So pick your top 3 to 5. Okay, I think there's more information here in the FAQ, but I would just recommend that you reference that if you come across questions, because it's a wealth of resource, a wealth of information. So with that, I'm going to go back and actually show you the planning document that Tanya referenced. So this planning document has all the questions that you are going to be asked on the application in IowaGrants.gov, and it gives you an opportunity, if you download this, you have the opportunity to fill it all in so that as you go into the actual web portal, you can copy paste your responses right from this, and you know you've got it saved one extra place in case the internet eats your homework and causes panic at the last minute. This is just like one more thing we can do to take care of ourselves of the future, and offer an additional backup for the questions. I do want to go through the 7 evaluated questions briefly. The first one, these are credentials. Okay, so the first question is the evidence of effect. So what Iowa STEM scale-up programs have already come to the table with a record of positive impact on student interest and achievement in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we'd like a summary of that evidence of effect with that includes evidence. That's the biggest thing we coach the reviewers on looking for as they assess your responses against the rubric. The next question has to do with the alignment of your program to the expectations that Iowa educators are held accountable for. In other words, the Iowa academic standards. And so there's a couple questions on that, both how they integrate to Iowa's core STEM standards, in addition to other standards that integrate in with STEM, including sort of 21st century skills. Maybe you dovetail really well with English language arts standards or social studies standards. There's a second question there that gives you an opportunity to respond to how you integrate into other things that students are responsible for knowing before they enter the world. The third scored portion is on your ability to scale in the state of Iowa. So Iowa STEM scale-up programs are offered and expected to be able to implement across the state. And we have urban communities, we have suburban communities, and we have very rural communities in the state of Iowa. And we want the programs that we put on our menu to serve each of those types of communities equitably. So this is your opportunity to show us that you both have the ability to distribute your program across the entire state, and serve many educators and students, no matter where they live. The fourth piece is the professional development or the training that you offer to prepare educators to implement your program. There's a lot of questions about the details of how that is offered, and you'll have plenty of opportunities to respond there. The fifth one is the evidence of effect in engaging diverse learners. And in this question, we have a very broad definition of diverse learners. You can read all the different statuses that qualify as communities that deserve our special attention. And we want to make sure that the programs that are on Iowa's menu are going to serve learners where they're at, no matter where that is. And so you have an opportunity to respond there. Question 6 is the connection to the world of work. The product of our programs are going to be students that have amazing career opportunities and ideally in the state of Iowa. And so what we'd like for you to explain as you respond to this question is, how does your program, the learning students are going to do with that, connect to the world of work? And how are you making those connections explicit for students and educators as they implement the program? And then the last one, very important, is the program budget. And so I'm going to take this moment, and basically we are funded primarily through Iowa taxpayer dollars and some private support as well. And we want, all of us want to be very good stewards of that money. So as you're completing your budget, the most important piece there is the justification of why this cost for these pieces, which just, it's a communication tool to our reviewers that helps them assess, are we being good stewards of Iowa taxpayer dollars with this? And so for your program budget, we have a very specific template we want you to use. And there are some resources in the template. Excuse me, I'm working on there's a little bit of a delay between the screen that I'm sharing from and my mouse. Okay. This is the budget template. And the couple of things that I want to draw your attention to, the first is the way that this template is set up. Different programs have different units of implementation. So basically the unit you're going to base your cost around. Frequently the program's unit of implementation is an educator, meaning the educator and their students. And so there's an opportunity to present your budget in the per educator unit. As you scroll down, this next green bar, you don't have to fill them all out, right? If your implementation unit is not an educator, but a group of students, say it's if it's a number of students, then there's a section down here where you can present your budget to us per group of students, and you define how many students per group, and then the cost categories there. You also could present your budget per student if it's a individual student cost that is your typical unit. I think it is, did I say this already? You do not have to complete the budget for every single unit. You don't have to calculate it several different ways. Just what is your primary unit of implementation? Complete the budget template for that unit. All the categories are the same. You could also have your unit be per building. Excuse me. The awards are typically made per building in terms of once the year of scale up support is over for an awardee, that award, the materials belong to the building that awardee belonged to during the implementation year. So if an educator moves to another building, they don't take it with them, it belongs to the building. So that's the per building cost. And then the last category there is if you choose to have your cost for training to be either at the regional level, and I don't know if you noticed from the map at the very beginning with all the region managers' contact information, we divide the state of Iowa into 6 regions. We all collaborate. Everybody's on my speed dial all the time. But the money is divided up into those 6 regions. And so we would encourage you to offer regional trainings. And there's also an option to offer the cost per training at a statewide budget. And so that's also in the budget template. The other things that I want to share with you about that budget template is there are tabs at the bottom that give guidelines for allowable and not allowable costs. So a lot of times I also get questions about, hey, we want to offer the educators compensation for their summer time spent in training. What can we pay them? And there are guidelines here, both for the participant stipend, for the allowable administrative costs, what you can spend what the ceiling is on what you could spend for food at the training, etc. So take a look at that for the allowable costs that you can build into your budget. And then there's also a list in the third tab over of what you cannot propose in your budget because Iowa STEM cannot reimburse those costs. And they're, you know, you can't buy alcohol for the educators while they're at the training. We can't pay for that. Things like that. So that is the budget. I'm trying to think. And then the last thing I wanted to do was reiterate the way that the money works, because I get a lot of questions. What am I doing? Multitasking is not my strongest. There we go. Nope. Come on, Sarah. I'm gonna get there. Oh, the rubric. Let me go with that. Well, while I'm here and we're talking about the budget, I just want to draw your attention to the frequently asked questions section. Again, I'm back to that landing page, that web page. In the frequently asked questions section, one of the questions that comes up a lot is how much money is on the line? And Justin talked about it at the very beginning, but I just want to reiterate, if you want to reference back to that, it is one of our FAQ responses here that we got just over $3 million that we expect for fiscal year 2026. So that's this next year. And there are a lot of factors in how much money for a specific program, because it is sort of based on demand. That second phase of this process is the educators apply from the menu. And so based on how many educators demand the program and what the resources are at the region level in the state of Iowa for awarding them, determines how many educators will be awarded your program and how much money you will get from Iowa STEM to train and provide services to those educators. Okay, then I was going to bop to the last thing that I want to talk about here is going back up to these links to the important resources. Also linked on that important resource landing page is the scoring rubric. So we put right out there how your responses to the application questions are going to be reviewed. I'm not going to read it to you because well, like Tanya said, we're all capable of doing that. But what I do want to share with you as you review the rubric is the teams of reviewers, who your audience is. So we use volunteer reviewers from the state of Iowa when we are reviewing these programs, and they're a team of 3. That team of 3 includes a person who is a practitioner, meaning their day-to-day job is interacting directly with youth. It could be in school or out of school. All programs are the menu is open to both kinds of educators. But they're going to be looking at your responses through their lens of how feasible is this for me as I think about implementing with kids here in the state of Iowa. The second person on that team of reviewers is going to be an expert in curriculum, whether it's a curriculum director for a school district or a AEA consultant who has an expertise in aligning activities to the standards for which our students and educators are held accountable. And they're going to be looking at it through the lens of, does the examples of the program and the evidence that you provide in your application, is it really aligning to Iowa's academic standards like they say they are? And then the last person on that team of 3 is someone from the world of work in the state of Iowa, and they will be scoring against this rubric, but also come to the table with their lens of how does this connect to the world of work. And so those are your teams that do the initial review, and then those scores go to a tier 2 review team where we're looking at the diversity of the menu, where the top scoring programs will look at, is there an offering for every grade level pre-K through 12? It doesn't have to be from a single program, but on the menu, is there something for everyone? Do we have offerings on the menu that are appropriate for in-school educators? Do we have offerings on the menu that are appropriate for out-of-school educators? Do the offerings on the menu offer a diversity of topics? So we're not just going to focused in on computer science. There should be some of that on the menu, and also subjects, environmental science, emphasis in mathematics, integrated STEM. We're just looking for a diversity in that tier 2 portion of the review. So that's how you'll be evaluated in addition to the rubric, but the primary importance is looking at that rubric. That is everything I wanted to cover. So the last piece, at this point, I am going to open it up to you all for your questions. And again, just a reminder, the way that you ask your questions is by typing them into the Q&A, use that Q&A button for the webinar.
So we do have a couple of questions in there right now, Sarah. First one, if selected as a provider, what's the timeline for awarded educators to receive their deliverables?
Great question. So a provider will find out how many educators they have in late spring, so late April. And then training and materials delivery needs to wait until after July 15th and must be complete by about October 31st. And that would be for this cycle that we're talking like July, well, we're talking spring of 2025 to October 31st, 2025.
We do have a couple of questions kind of revolving around different grade bands. Is it better for program providers to submit something based on those specific grade bands versus a full encompassing K through 12? Or is there any historical ness to that as well? A couple of questions based on that.
So the way I'm going to respond to that is, you know your program best and where it is strong. One thing I would encourage you to consider is the distinction. I really appreciate this question, because the distinction between what constitutes one application versus multiple applications, and if it requires a different training, it should be a separate application. And the way that this ties into your question is, if you would hold a different training for K through 2nd grade educators than you would for 9, 10, 11th grade educators, those are 2 separate applications. And we would treat them as 2 different programs. If you think you can cover, if your program does and your training does a great job of covering the needs of the educators K through 12, then submit it as a K through 12 program. But I would, with that distinction, I would defer to the program provider as the expert.
All right, hopefully that answers both of those questions. If not, feel free to rehash your question out and we'll try to get it better answered for you. Also have a question, and maybe this is addressed on the budget. Do educational competitions, are those considered for the grants?
Off the top of my head, I don't know that. Give me just a minute. I will pull the budget back up. And colleagues, feel free to pipe in if you remember from the past. Let's see.
I believe something about competitions is on the 3rd
Budget
tab.
template. Oh, guess what?
But I didn't know exactly.
Well, I think it's safe to say that it's not of the norm, but I cannot remember. Like, I was trying to recall if we have made that available on the menu, and I cannot recall one being on the menu.
Let's look here. I'm just going to make sure it's not in the unallowable costs. So hosting statewide events, including contests.
Yeah.
So there's the answer. It's not allowed. Great question. obviously I needed a refresher on that too.
Great programs, but not for this grant, unfortunately. Multiple applications, is that allowed?
Yes, multiple applications are allowed. I'll reiterate, historically, there has not been more than 3 programs from a single provider accepted for the menu. So as you're budgeting your own time, just bear that in mind.
For teacher professional learning, is there any specific guidelines on that? Generally, multi-day, before school, more periodic, any guidelines there?
Hey, thank you for that question. I am going to share with you, sorry, give me just a minute to pull it up because I want to get the language exactly right. Where do I have it? Okay, we have 3 expectations for the professional learning. Here we go. Okay, they are that you verify attendance. We need records of who attended, that the educators have an opportunity to engage with the materials and apply their professional learning during the session, and the educators have an opportunity to discuss implementation in their specific context with their peers, as well as experts. And by experts, we mean, the experts in the program, as in the trainers. That can look a lot of different ways. Historically, we've had trainings as short as a few hours and as long as 2 weeks. That's to give you the range, but we don't have any. The 3 things I just shared are the expectations of training. However you do that for your program you're the expert there.
And the only other one I'm seeing right now is if the recording is going to be sent to attendees, which yes, we can do that. It will also be posted online too, so will be accessible.
Okay, I think if there are no more questions, we'll pause for another minute or so to see if any other questions come up. But I'm going to take the time now to thank you all for your time and attention, your interest in serving the students and educators in the state of Iowa, and just reiterate, you can either sign up for one of those one-on-one office hour help sessions or email me if you have questions as you go through the process. We're here to help.
There is one more that just came in. If providers can apply, if they were a provider in 2024, are they welcome again?
Yes. Yes, providers who have been providers in the past are absolutely welcome back to the table. The playing field for them is the same as it is for everyone. So we sort of start from scratch every year, and love to see returning providers apply.
And we'll be sure to add to the FAQs on the website too, of any of these details and stuff to hopefully help everything be a little bit more clear here in the future.
Okay, thank you all. I think we could probably stop the recording.